There is a 7-year-old Bernese mountain dog named Atlas who does something every single evening that his owner, a high school history teacher named Owen who grades papers until midnight, has never once stopped to analyze. The moment Owen's car turns onto their street, 4 houses away, Atlas walks to the front door and lies down. Not when the headlights sweep the window. Not when the engine cuts off. Before any of that. Before Owen is even close. Atlas just knows. But this video is not really about Atlas. It is about you. And it is about the fact that your dog has been doing the same thing in their own way for years. Quietly. Completely. Rebuilding who you are from the inside out. Here is what science has only recently begun to understand. Your dog did not just share your home. They physically altered the microscopic architecture of your brain. Every morning greeting, every evening walk, every quiet moment of breathing beside you on the couch, all of it was construction work. Your dog was, without either of you knowing it, rewriting your neurons. And if you have ever lost a dog, and you swear you still heard their collar jingling in an empty hallway, or you automatically stepped around their bed weeks after it was gone, you were not imagining things. You were not losing your mind. You were experiencing one of the most profound neurological events a human being can go through. The science calls it grief. Your body calls it something closer to a missing limb. To understand why, we have to start at the very beginning of what the bond actually is, not the emotional version, the biological one. A groundbreaking study published in 2024 used technology that measures brain waves to monitor humans and their dogs over 5 continuous days. What they found was extraordinary. When a dog and their person made eye contact, especially while petting, their brain activity did not just react to each other, it synchronized. The neural rhythms of 2 completely different species, one human, one dog, aligned into a shared state. And here is the part that quietly changes everything. That synchronization grew stronger every single day. Think about that for a moment. Looking into your dog's eyes is not just an expression of love. It is 2 nervous systems locking into each other like gears. It is your brain and your dog's brain finding the same frequency. Owen does not know this. He just knows that Atlas somehow always ends up pressed against his leg when the grading pile is at its worst. That without planning it, without thinking, he breathes a little slower when Atlas is near. That is not coincidence. That is biology. Atlas has been regulating Owen's nervous system for 7 years, as faithfully and automatically as a heartbeat. The human nervous system has what researchers call an open-loop design. That means our internal stability, our stress levels, our sense of calm or danger depends heavily on our connections to the beings we love. A deeply bonded dog becomes what scientists call a secure base, a biological anchor. The rhythm of their breathing beside you at night, the warmth of their weight against your leg, the absolute, unconditional predictability of them being there. All of it tells your brain, quietly, constantly, that the world is safe. Think of the last time you walked into your house after a hard day. That wave of something loosening in your chest the moment your dog ran to you. That was not just happiness. That was a chemical cascade, the same rush of warmth a mother feels holding her baby for the first time, flooding your nervous system because your biological anchor had just restored the signal. You are home. You are safe. Everything is okay. This is what lives inside an ordinary Tuesday evening. Owen, red pen in hand, stack of papers beside him. Atlas, a warm and absolute presence at his feet. Neither of them narrating it. Neither of them knowing the depth of what is quietly happening between their 2 nervous systems. But here is what happens when that anchor is suddenly gone. That is where the story gets almost too beautiful and too heartbreaking to believe. 93%. That is the number of people who, after losing a dog, find themselves physically unable to stop performing habits that no longer make any sense. Reaching for a leash that hangs unused, setting out a bowl out of nowhere, calling a name into an empty room. 93%. Think about that. Nearly every single person who has ever loved and lost a dog has stood in their own kitchen doing something that broke their heart because they could not stop doing it. This is not weakness. This is not forgetfulness. This is your brain fighting with everything it has to hold on to something real. When you lived with a dog, your brain did something remarkable. It took every daily ritual, the morning feeding, the click of the leash, the exact path you walked through a dark hallway without turning on a light, and it handed all of it over to a part of the brain called the basal ganglia. This is the brain's habit center, buried deep below conscious thought. And what it does, with breathtaking efficiency, is wrap those repeated routines in a biological insulation that makes them faster, stronger, and almost impossible to undo. Every single day you lived with your dog, those pathways got thicker, more permanent, more you. Over years, your body stopped thinking about how to live with a dog. It just did it. You moved through your house in an unconscious, choreographed dance with another living being. Your nervous system and theirs operated as a single system. There is a woman named Renata who walks to work past a bakery every morning. She does not think about turning left at the corner. Her feet just do it. That is the basal ganglia. That is exactly what happened inside you, except instead of a bakery corner, it was every room in your house, every hour of your day, every routine, threaded through with the presence of your dog. And then the dog dies. The pathways do not die with them. This is the unbearable part. The brain, which has been running this exquisitely optimized program for years, continues to run it. The habit loops fire exactly as they always have. The body reaches, turns, expects, and then reality does not deliver. Scientists call this a prediction error. Your brain predicted your dog, sent out the signal, released the beginning of that chemical joy in anticipation of them being there. And then, nothing. The signal returns empty. That sharp physical pang you feel in your chest when you realize, again, that they are not there, that is not just sadness. That is a neurological shock. And it happens dozens of times a day, in grocery stores and living rooms and dark hallways, every single time the brain tries to run a program that no longer has a destination. Owen's wife told him, 6 weeks after they lost their previous dog, that she had watched him unconsciously step around an empty spot on the kitchen floor where the dog used to sleep. He did not even know he had done it. He could not stop. The body was still following the map. The map had just lost its territory. The chronic exhaustion that comes with grief, the fog, the inability to concentrate, the bone-deep fatigue that makes even simple things feel enormous. It is not weakness. It is your brain using extraordinary amounts of energy to constantly override its own habits. Every single time you catch yourself and remember, your prefrontal cortex, the rational, conscious part of your mind, has to physically interrupt a process that has been running automatically for years. It is like trying to unlearn how to ride a bicycle while riding a bicycle. Every single time you do it, you are doing the most demanding neurological work a human brain is capable of. But knowing that something hurts does not make it hurt less. And the grief does not stop at habits. Because it turns out your brain did something even more profound than building routines around your dog. It actually built them into its very definition of who you are. Here is a question nobody ever asks. When you think about where you end and the world begins, where exactly is that line? Most of us would say the boundary is our skin. Our body is ours. Everything outside it is the world. But the brain does not see it that way. Not when it comes to the things and beings it loves most. The human somatosensory cortex, the part of the brain responsible for knowing where your body is in space, maintains what neuroscientists call a body schema. It is an internal map, a live, constantly updated model of you, your arms, your legs, the weight of your own body as it moves through the world. And here is what the research makes undeniable. That map does not stop at your skin when someone is deeply bonded to you. Brain imaging studies have shown something remarkable. When people think about those they are most deeply attached to, including their companion animals, the neural activity overlaps directly with the regions the brain uses the self. The brain does not draw a hard line between you and the ones you love most. At a structural level, they are part of you, neurologically encoded alongside your own identity. Your dog was not just someone you loved. Your brain categorized them as part of what you are. And when they died, that boundary was not just broken, it was amputated. Think about phantom limb syndrome. An amputee who has lost an arm will sometimes feel that arm reach for something, feel it ache, feel it itch. The arm is gone, but the map of the arm inside the brain remains perfectly intact. The brain keeps sending signals to a part of the body that no longer exists. Grief after losing a dog follows the same architecture. The map of them is still there. Your brain still reaches, still expects the weight of them settling against you on the couch, still braces in the middle of the night for a dog to jump onto the bed, still shifts posture to make room for a body that is no longer there. It is not a metaphor to say that losing a dog feels like losing a limb. It is a neurological description. Atlas is 7, which means Owen has had him since he was barely out of puppyhood. Since Atlas was a ridiculously oversized puppy who knocked over a full pot of coffee on the first week home and showed absolutely no remorse. In 7 years, the brain map Owen carries includes Atlas, not as a memory, as an extension of self, as a part of the architecture of his daily reality that is as built-in and as unconscious as knowing where his own hands are in the dark. And somewhere inside that truth is a weight worth sitting with. The beings we love the most, our children, our closest friends, our dogs, they live inside us, not as photographs, but as physical structure, as living tissue, as the literal shape of our brains. But here is where the story takes a turn towards something almost unbearably beautiful. Because what the science also reveals is that this is not a one-way process. Your dog was not just mapped into you. In the years you spent together, they were actively, physically building you, changing you, constructing new parts of your brain that would not exist without them. And those parts do not disappear when they do. Weeks after a dog dies, in the quiet hours of a house that still smells like them, something happens that terrifies almost everyone who goes through it. They hear the nails on the floor. Not the echo of a memory, not a soft mental image, an actual sound, clear enough to turn their head, real enough to stop their breath. 84% of grieving pet owners report this within the first 2 weeks. 70% hear an ambiguous sound, wind against a window, a radiator ticking, and their brain translates it immediately into the exact acoustic signature of their dog. 77% see a shadow move at the edge of their vision, and their heart surges before rational thought catches up. And nearly all of them think, quietly and terrifiedly, that they are losing their mind. They are not. What is happening is one of the most extraordinary demonstrations of how deeply your dog was encoded in your brain. Throughout your entire life together, your auditory and visual cortex were in constant training. Every single day, your brain learned the precise pitch and rhythm of that specific collar, the exact weight and sound of those specific paws, the particular way a tail moved through the air. Your brain became, over years, a finely tuned instrument designed to detect one signal above almost all others: the presence of your dog. And then, the brain enters grief, which means it is sleep-deprived and flooded with invisible stress chemicals and running on near empty. And in that depleted state, the brain does something it has always been evolutionarily built to do. It leans harder on prediction. It fills in missing information from everything it already knows. It takes ambiguous sensory input and completes the pattern. A branch taps the window, and the brain, reaching for its anchor, desperate to restore the homeostasis it has lost, delivers the only thing that has ever sounded remotely like that to it. A paw at the back door. Not as a trick, not as delusion, as the most honest thing the brain knows how to do with an empty house. There was a man named Theo who lost his Labrador of 12 years. He called his sister 3 weeks later, voice barely above a whisper, and said he thought he was seeing ghosts. She did not say what she should have said, which was, "You are not seeing a ghost. You are seeing the depth of your own love, made visible by the way your mind refuses to let go of someone who mattered that much." Because these phantom sounds, these fleeting shapes in the corner of the room, these weight illusions on the mattress at night, they are not signs of instability. They are the direct, measurable proof of how permanently and how profoundly your dog altered your perception of the world. The neural grooves they carved are that deep. The expectation of them is that vast, and your brain, even now, even after, is still looking, still listening, still reaching. But here is the question the science leaves open. Here is the thing that will shift how you understand everything that came before it. If the dog built all of this inside you, all these pathways and maps and neural signatures, then what happens to all of that after they are gone? Is it lost? Is it slowly dismantled the way old memories fade? Or does it do something else entirely? Grief is not falling apart. Grief is your brain trying to learn something it was never designed to know. That is the insight at the center of decades of research by neuroscientist Dr. Mary Frances O'Connor, one of the world's leading experts on what happens inside a grieving brain. She describes it this way. The brain maps the people and animals it loves across 3 dimensions: here, now, close. When the dog steps out into the backyard, they are not here, but they are close. When they are asleep in another room, they are close. When they are at the vet for the day, they are temporarily not here and not now, but still close. The brain is comfortable with all of this. It knows they will return. Death breaks the map in a way the brain has no pre-built language for. The dog is not here. They are not now. They are not coming back. But the subcortical systems, the ancient, wordless, deeply wired attachment networks, have no category for permanent absence. They only know missing. And missing means search. So they do. This is the agonizing two-world reality of profound grief. One part of you knows, the rational mind understood the moment it happened. But another part of you, older and deeper and wired into the actual physical structure of your nervous system, keeps expecting, keeps reaching for the leash, keeps turning at the sound in the hall, keeps waiting at the door. Owen knows this now in a way he did not used to. His first dog, a shepherd mix named Cedar, died 4 years before Atlas was born. And for months after Cedar, Owen would sit down at his desk to grade papers and feel the absence like a presence. The chair beside him felt wrong. The house sounded too much like itself. He could not explain it then. He can explain it now. Grief is learning, grueling, metabolically expensive, neurologically demanding learning. The brain has to physically untangle thousands of pathways, has to slowly, painfully teach its subcortical systems a new kind of close, one that is not spatial, not temporal, but internal. The dog does not exist in the outer world anymore, but they exist in here, and the brain has to build the architecture to hold that truth. The fog, the exhaustion, the inability to concentrate on things that used to be simple. These are not signs of breaking. They are signs of extraordinary work happening below the level of awareness. The brain is rewriting itself. It is doing the most profound kind of learning. And every tear, every moment of catching yourself reaching, every quiet morning where the house feels just a little more like the dog is somewhere in it, is evidence that the process is happening, that you are slowly, painfully, building a new map. One that can hold them, even now. But here is the part the science says last. Here is the part that, once you hear it, you cannot unhear. Because none of this, not the habits, not the phantom sounds, not the phantom presence, none of it is the most profound thing your dog left inside your brain. The most profound thing is still there, and it is not going anywhere. Your dog made you a different person, not metaphorically, structurally, biologically. Here is what neuroplasticity actually means when you strip away the clinical language. Every experience that is repeated, every emotion that is deeply felt, every relationship that unfolds over years, physically changes the brain. It grows new connections. It strengthens some pathways and lets others thin. It folds new proteins. It rewires the architecture of thought and feeling and perception. Your dog did all of this to you. The patience you built training them when they were young, that is in your brain. The attunement you developed to their moods, their signals, the slight angle of their head that meant they needed something, that exquisite sensitivity is built into your neural structure. The capacity to love something that cannot say, "I love you" back, and receive that love without needing the words, that is you now, permanently. The same brain imaging research that shows how closely bonded attachment figures are, mapped alongside the self, also shows something else. In people who have deeply loved, the neural representations associated with empathy, with present moment awareness, with the capacity to extend the self toward another being, are expanded, larger, more developed, because they were used, because they were trained daily by a relationship that asked everything of them and gave everything back. Your dog taught your brain how to love like that, and the brain does not delete what it has built. When the acute grief subsides, when the brain finishes the brutal work of updating its map, what remains is not a whole. What remains is the architecture, the expanded capacity for empathy, the deepened ability to be present. The medial prefrontal cortex, the very region that included your dog as part of the self, it does not shrink back. It carries the shape of what you built together. The person you are today, the way you read other people's emotions, the way you can sit in silence without needing to fill it, the way you know, instinctively and without explanation, when someone near you is not okay, that did not come from nowhere. It came from years of being loved by something that communicated in nothing but feeling and presence. Your dog left a permanent structural blueprint in your mind, not a memory, not a feeling that comes and goes, a biological imprint folded into the actual matter of your brain. The pathways they built are still there. The empathy they grew in you is still there. The version of yourself that existed because they existed is still there. Atlas is asleep at Owen's feet right now. Owen is grading papers with a red pen late into the night. Neither of them is thinking about neuroscience or grief or the biological permanence of love. Atlas's ribs rise and fall. Owen's breathing, without him noticing, has slowed to match. Two nervous systems, quietly synchronized. Building something in Owen's brain that will still be there long after the papers are graded and the night is over, and years have passed. That is not poetry. That is biology, and it is, maybe, the most beautiful thing science has ever discovered. There is a moment, late on a Sunday afternoon, when Owen stops grading. Not because he is tired, because Atlas has shifted in his sleep and pressed his enormous head against Owen's foot with a weight that is, there is no other word for it, trustful, complete. Atlas does not know that Owen had a hard week. Atlas does not know that Owen's mother is in the hospital 3 states away, or that he has not slept properly in 4 days. Atlas just knows that Owen's foot is there, and that leaning against it is the right thing to do. Owen looks down, and for a moment that is very long and very quiet, he just looks. This is what we do not talk about enough. Our lives are enormous. They stretch across decades and cities and versions of ourselves we barely recognize anymore. They hold grief and ambition and regret and joy and the specific, irreplaceable faces of people we have loved. We contain multitudes. We carry so much. And then there is a dog whose entire world, from the first day they opened their eyes to this one, has been arranging itself around a single human being. Every sunrise they have ever seen, every moment of fear and comfort and joy they have ever known, every nap and walk and meal and quiet evening, all of it has been happening inside a life that orbits yours. You are their universe, the whole of it. They're here. They're now. They're close. You do not have forever to be that for them. The science is clear on this, and the science is not gentle about it. The time you have is finite, and it is already moving. The dog at your feet right now is not a fixture. They are a being in a borrowed season, pressing their weight against you because you are the whole world to them, right now, in this moment, which will not last. And so here is what I need you to do. Not tomorrow, not when you finish this video and scroll back to your day. Now, in the next 60 seconds. Go to where your dog is. Sit down beside them. Put your hand flat on their side and feel them breathe. Not a pat, not a quick scratch behind the ear, just your hand resting, warm against their ribs, feeling the rise and fall of a life that loves you more completely than you will probably ever fully understand. Stay there long enough to feel your own breathing slow, long enough to feel what synchronized feels like from the inside. That is not a moment to fill. That is a ceremony. That is you understanding with your whole body what you have while you have it. Because here is what the science ultimately says. Here is the truth underneath all the brain scans and the prediction errors and the phantom sounds. Every day that dog is alive, they are building something permanent inside you. Every morning greeting, every evening walk in the rain, every quiet night where the only sound is the two of you breathing in the same room. All of it is construction. All of it is going into the architecture of who you are and who you will be, long after they are gone. So let them build. Tell me in the comments, what is the one small thing your dog does that you have taken for granted and that you are never going to take for granted again after watching this? We want to hear it. This community was made for exactly that kind of love. If this video found you at the right moment, if it said something you needed to hear, please subscribe and join us. This channel exists for the people who understand that a dog is not a pet. A dog is a person. A dog is a chapter. A dog is a neurological event that rewrites who you are and leaves the most beautiful, permanent mark. And in our next video, we are going to explore something that might completely change the way you interpret everything your dog has ever tried to tell you. The science of how dogs read human emotion is stranger and more extraordinary than anyone suspected. And once you understand what is actually happening when your dog looks at you, you will never look at them the same way again.